Good morning, everyone. Nice to be with you again today in this virtual way. So if we could, let's begin the way we always do with a short prayer. So let us please close our eyes. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahavirjam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidyishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. I humbly bow to my Gurudev, Paramahamsa Hariharananda. I humbly bow to my Guruji, Paramahamsa Pragyanananda. I humbly bow to our line of Kriya Yoga masters. I humbly bow to saints and sages of all religions. I humbly bow to all the divine incarnations in every place and in every time. I humbly bow to the people of the whole world and especially to each one of you. And I humbly bow to God, God who is abiding within this creation, at the same time, remaining beyond this creation. Lord, please bless us this morning and help us to understand each other well, to learn together, to meditate nicely. Om, Amen. So today you may have seen in the topic line for today's talk, some thoughts on the idea of Neti, practice of not this, not this. This is a beautiful practice for spiritual awakening and realization. It goes back thousands of years. And this practice of neti is elucidated beautifully by the great sage and teacher Adi Shankara in his hymn called Nirvana Shatakam. This hymn is only 6 verses in length, but in those 6 verses, Adi Shankara gives a beautiful, deep foundation for this practice of not this, leading to God realization. So the idea of today's short talk is not to go into detail about the Nirvana Shatakam. Let me give you 2 wonderful ways that you can really explore the detail of this hymn and the teachings and commentary on really each line. First of all is in our Guruji Pragyanananda's CD series, Who Am I? Really spectacular. It's, 5 or 6 CDs. I have it loaded into my phone so that I can listen to it in the car when I'm driving. I highly recommend that. It's fantastic and goes into great depth about this teaching of Shankaracharya's. The other is also by our Guruji Pragyananda, is this really nice book called Self-Inquiry, the Nirvana Shatakam of Acharya Shankara. So you see it's a beautiful artist rendering of the sage. But to set up what I want to talk about, to just give a very, very surface glimpse of this practice and what Adi Shankara talks about in his hymn, is that you approach the spiritual path with the idea of negating mentally and perceptually everything that is not the ultimate reality, everything that is not God. So, for example, in some of the verses in the hymn Nirvana Shatakam, Adi Shankara says, I am not the body, I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I'm not the ego, I am not the senses. And he goes into many more details about more subtle aspects of the human being, more subtle aspects of the world and the creation, saying, I am not this and not that. The idea is that through this process, you peel away all the layers of unreality until nothing remains but that which is the underlying reality. So basically, you could say you are taking away everything in your field of perception, experience, mind, thoughts, feelings that is not God until you have uncovered God within. So it's a very nice practice, a time-honored practice. But I had a thought a long time ago when considering this, when I first learned about this type of approach to spiritual life. I said, but my Gurudev, Hariharananda, has always said, and one of his most important sayings of his many, many very important sayings, an expression of his that really I love and has always resonated deeply with me is, Gurudev would say, there is no non-God. And I always took that double negative in there to be very purposeful and meaningful, that Gurudev was stressing to us that there is nothing that is not God. So this is the path to tread that we should try to perceive in our thoughts, our feelings, our experiences in the world, through our senses, through our intuition, everything we have available to us, that there is no non-God. So when I started learning about this approach of Neti, my first reaction was, well, isn't that the opposite of what Gurudev is saying? Gurudev is saying God is everything and God is everywhere. And this practice of negation is saying, no, God is not any place except in himself. So I was confused and thought there's some sort of conflict here in these teachings. They don't go together. So I really, for a long time, didn't, you could say, warm up very much to the idea of not this, not this. As a matter of fact, my natural attraction was to an approach that, this is kind of my expression of it, just my way of putting it, is what I saw as the opposite approach of and this, instead of not this, and this, or you could say it, this too is God. Because I felt that Gurudev's expression of there is no non-God went to me in myself to a place of I should be seeing that everything that comes into my experience, inwardly and outwardly, yes, this too is God. This too, and this, and this. So I think it took a long time of just settling within me this idea of negation and how it related to my sort of natural attraction towards what I guess I would call the process of affirmation. So I felt there was the process of negation on one side, the process of affirmation on the other side. The question today is, are the two completely separate, or do they somehow harmonize with each other? Do they somehow go together? Can they somehow work together? Or do we have to choose one or the other? The first thing, and that I would say, and I've said this about many different things in our spiritual conversations, is that it gets very tricky because all we have to work with is language, thoughts, ideas, mental constructs. And in spirituality, all of those things ultimately fall short. Language ultimately is very limited. Our minds, our intellects are finite. So how to understand God, who is infinite, with these extremely limited finite tools? So what we have to first understand is that when we're talking about a topic, all we're doing is expressing the best we can ideas that ultimately are beyond our full comprehension. We're kind of trying to point the way using either this type of idea or that type of idea, either using not this or using this too. Now, both paths I have thought about as having some possible pitfalls that we have to watch out for. As in every type of spiritual practice, there are some hidden dangers, you could say, that we have to be aware of and examine ourselves and make sure that we're not falling into them. So, for example, in the practice of negation, I feel that one of the big dangers is that you are removing yourself in a way from the world, and it's possible to go to the point of not honoring your life in this creation, not giving proper care and attention to things like your responsibilities in the world, your relationships with people. It can go as far as, not taking care of your body even, or not taking proper care of your mind. I think that, and this is what I always perceived from Gurudev, from Hariharananda, that while we are living in this world, we are also to honor this life that we're living, in addition to trying to grow spiritually and become realized. On the other hand, if we're practicing the path of affirmation, where we're saying, and this, a possible danger would be that we stay at too surface of a level and we don't go deeply enough trying to have that inner awareness of that which underlies all the things that we're seeing and experiencing. Now, some people may be very strongly attracted to either of these two paths. And I think that if you're strongly attracted to one or the other, it's working for you. And whichever path you're choosing, you're living a life of compassion and honoring your incarnation and playing your role nicely in the world, then I would say go for it. And even some small number of people can take one path or the other to an extreme, and that extreme even works for them. Just think as one example of the yogis who are meditating in caves in the Himalayas, who have nothing more than a small cloth around their waist and a water pot. This is all that they own, and they spend their life meditating in a cave. You could say that is an extreme form of the Neti, where you have completely withdrawn from this creation, from this world, and are totally leaving it behind. For some souls, that works for them. But you can just think of the number of people in the world and what percentage of people are successfully treading that path. It's for people who have come to that level of spiritual development in their sadhana, where it's time for them to go that way. I think a lot of us are more, you could say, in the middle of the journey. And so, how to choose? Like I said, if one way or the other attracts you more, and you feel within yourself that it's giving you progress, you're making progress using this, wonderful. But what the realization I finally came to after letting all of this stuff sit in me for years was that we don't have to choose. That as yogis, as Kriya yogis, we can start to perceive both paths are there for us to use, to enjoy, to benefit from. It's just a matter of a little deeper understanding. And that was my problem at the beginning. I didn't have a deep enough understanding, where immediately I thought there's conflict. They're opposites of each other. The reality is both are paths that lead to discrimination. The Sanskrit word is viveka. It was interesting when I was thinking about this talk, what popped into my head was the first great yogi from India to come to the West to bring these kinds of teachings. What was his name? His name was Vivekananda. So right from day one, with these teachings coming to us, the hint was there that discrimination is, in the end, is a big part of it. Vivekananda. Viveka is discrimination, and his name means the bliss of discrimination, roughly. It would mean that. So how do these two things harmonize? How do they work together? They both bring you to a state where you can perceive that there is an underlying reality beyond what we normally see and feel and live in our normal daily lives. In the path of negation, you'll often hear it described as reality versus unreality, or you will hear it described as truth versus untruth, or reality versus illusion, that this world is illusion. These are the kind of expressions that made me concerned about you could develop some sort of negative attitude towards the creation, towards life, towards your incarnation, and conceivably even have some kind of hostility towards life. Obviously, that's not going to be productive in the spiritual path. The other path, the path of affirmation, we put it more as the living presence of God is within us, and the living presence of God is also beyond us, both. That living presence pervades both the creation, both the form and the formless. So if we understand both expressions of this correctly, then the discrimination can come. And what the discrimination ultimately is that, yes, everything is real. Where you're sitting right now, the chair that you're sitting on or the cushion you're sitting on, you can feel it, it's real. You can feel your body, it's real, it has substance to it. Yes? The difference is whether something is ultimately real or just relatively real. So this creation is relatively real, not absolutely or ultimately. Why? What is the difference? The difference is what is absolutely real, what is ultimately real is that which is eternal. Everything that is not eternal, everything that is temporary, everything that is temporal is only relatively real. And that in the process of negation is what they call it illusion or unreality. But it is real in and of itself. It's just not ultimately real. So if we can see from that perspective that there is an ultimate reality, but also there is this life and this creation that we're temporarily living in, which has its own realness to it, then we can honor this life. We can enjoy this life, in fact. Did God only create us just to suffer? I don't think so. God created us so that he could manifest in all of these different names and forms and live through us in all the experiences that we have. And our situation is that we have forgotten, we have lost the connection to our ultimate reality, and that's why we feel separate. That's why we feel lost and afraid. And so this practice, whether it is through not this, or and this, is helping us to recover that awareness of the underlying reality, which is not separate from this reality. It pervades this reality. That is why Gurudev said there is no non-God. Because even though this material world is temporary, it is still a manifestation of God. God manifesting out of his own essence and pervaded by his presence. There is nowhere God is not at any moment, at any time. So what I wanted to do, see how we're doing time-wise, we're good. What I wanted to do is I wanted to guide a little meditation so that hopefully we could feel a little of this experience, a little of this, on one hand, difference between not this and this, but also feel how they go together and how you can work with both and how there is harmony between the two. So what I'd like to do as we're going into the meditation, we're going to be going in the way of affirmation, the way of and this, or you could say this too is God. As we're coming back out, it's going to be in the form of negation, in the form of neti, not this. So let's all sit comfortably and close our eyes. And we'll just do a calm, short meditation. And hopefully some of these thoughts will become alive within us. So we're sitting calmly, eyes closed, breathing normally. Feel the presence of the body. Know that this body is also a manifestation of God. God has created this body. God is abiding within this body. Perceive the condition of the body. Is it restless? Is it comfortable or not? Each of these things are God too. Is there pain in one of the knees? This too is the presence of God. Even this, you could say, even this, the back is stiff, it hurts. This too is the presence of God. Perceive that. Everything infused with the divine presence. So let the body relax a little more. Have that feeling of contentment in the body. Let it arise. This too, this too. And some awareness of the breath. Feel how the breath is moving in and moving out. And this, the breath is God, the presence of God in the body in the form of breath. We're moving from the more gross to the more subtle perceptions. Before going any deeper, be aware of your surroundings. What is coming in through the senses at this moment? Is there a lawnmower outside in the distance? This too is God. A dog barking, and this God manifesting as the barking dog. You feel some coolness of the air on the skin, or some warmth from the clothing on the body. This too, these external perceptions are the presence of God. So why to fight against anything? Any distraction that comes? Lord, this is also thy presence. Then to start going a little deeper, perceive the state of the mind. Observing the mind. Is the mind restless? Are thoughts jumping around, or is it becoming calm and peaceful? Even this is God. Gurudev used to say, thoughts and God are one. So know that the thoughts that arise within are also a manifestation of God. The state of the mind is a manifestation of God. The state of the emotions, this too is the divine presence. Are the emotions, do you feel happy this morning? Annoyed? Bored? This too is God. Perceive inside the body. Is there some gentle movement sensation? In Kriya, we say the vibration. Can you perceive some vibration moving inside the body? Gurudev would say the living power of God inside. This too is God manifesting in this creation. Inside, you may also perceive some divine sound that we call the Om sound, or some inner illumination, some kind of divine light. More and more subtle presence of God. Then slowly bring the awareness more up inside the head. Even this effort of bringing the awareness up, this effort is the presence of God. This too, this movement, this too. Inside the head, you may perceive some kind of light, sound, vibration there. You may also be watching the breath more inside the head. Light, sound, vibration, breath. These two are all the presence of God. This too, and this and this. Try and go a little more above the top of the head. Now let the awareness that is perceiving the breath, let that awareness detach from watching the breath. If you are perceiving any kind of light, sound, or vibration, whichever you're perceiving, allow yourself to be drawn more and more into that. If not, allow yourself to be drawn more and more into the quietness that you're perceiving. And as you sit and go deeper, just barely perceptible, inside of that perception is a stillness. With the gentlest effort possible, try to touch that stillness. Perceive it with the most subtle awareness. You are merging into the formless, the underlying reality of pure consciousness. This is the opening to God consciousness, resting in this pure awareness. And sometimes in this place, some kind of love arises. This love somehow is part of the mystery of God. We're just abiding in it, abiding in it. And slowly, slowly bring the awareness back to the top of the head. Just a little bit of body sense at the top of the head. Just there. From this place, You are the observing consciousness. You're watching from that place. From that place, you can perceive that the mind is there, ready to function. You can perceive that the body is there, ready to function. But you're still perceiving that there is something else. There is something more to you than the body and the mind, isn't it? There is that infinite consciousness that you're still touching at this moment. So, from that perspective, we can see that my ultimate reality is not this mind, it is not this body. I'm abiding in the ultimate essence of who I am. Start to feel a little more of the whole body. And yes, this body is real, it is here, it is ready to function. I feel the life force within it, the living presence of God giving life to this whole body. But still, I'm watching from this place of infinite awareness. So, really, this body, even though it is a manifestation of God, it is not this, not this. It is not my ultimate self. It is a temporary vehicle that God has given to use in this world. And then perceive what's coming in through the outside world, the lawnmower that's outside, the barking dog. Yes, also God manifesting, but no, not who I really am. These awarenesses through the senses are not me. This divine reality that I was meditating in, this is who I truly am. So now we're resting in the body, the mind, but also some awareness of the spirit. This is what the gurus teach us when they say to watch how God is manifesting through us in the world. Keep that connection with the divine underlying reality and perceive how it is moving through you in the world, how it is abiding within all the other people that you interact with in the world. Perceive its presence in everything and anything, no matter how gross or how subtle. But at the same time, perceiving that all of these things are not this, not this, because they are not eternal. So you can open the eyes. And what are we perceiving? We open the eyes, we see everything is a manifestation of God, and this, and this. But nothing is the absolute reality itself, because all of these things are temporary. So they are also not this, not this. So I thank you all for joining me this morning. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I pray that the blessings of God and gurus be upon us all. And I would like to conclude by doing as our Guruji Pragyanananda has recommended. Let us chant 3 times the Mahamrityunjaya mantra for our good and for the good of the whole creation. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvaruka Miva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvaruka Miva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvaruka Miva Bandhanan Murtyor Mukshiyamamratat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Guru, Jai Guru.